Internet, what is really, really, really good? You know who it is. It's the one and the only, the triple, the G.O.D. And of course, I'd like to welcome you guys back to another installment of Triple the Guy Speaks On. And today, our subject is hashtag new era, which is very grammatically incorrect when you really think about it, but it's hashtags and Twitter, so who really gives a shit? But seriously, I have planned for a while to, watch the first episodes of SmackDown Live and Raw, and try to put in perspective, from my own point of view, this whole brand extension, draft stuff, and the new era, and how we got to this point, and trying to sit up here and figure out where the hell this is going, because usually this would have been a very lengthy blog post. But I could probably, stuff down all of my thoughts in about 10 minutes or less, I think. But this is me, so this is probably going to go on for a while, so please forgive me. What I want to do first is for everybody who doesn't watch pro wrestling or sports entertainment, is I want to give you a brief history of how we got to this point and the different branching points of the point that we're going to get to. That made sense in my head before I said it, I swear. Okay. Let's start with this. Sometime last year, Shane McMahon came back, and he came back to one of the biggest pops in the history of anything I've ever seen on television. I'm marked out, because it's Shane. I'm like, Shane was my dude. Shane was my guy. I'm like, whenever, because it got to a point, whenever Shane was going to be in a match, you would just sit here and think about the match and be like, what is he going to dive off of this time? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, to be the boss's son and all that or whatever, every match he went in was a classic. That boy went out there, he went and did his thing, and he clapped. So, for him to get that type of ovation after spending years and years in China trying to build TVs or whatever the hell he was doing over there, was amazing to see how much the WWE universe got behind him and how the internet went nuts and everything like that. And that started this weird storyline where Shane was technically the stand-in for some vocal part of the IWC. And for those who don't know what the IWC is the Internet Wrestling Community or something or another. Is that he got out there on live television, well, 7-second delay live television, and said some interesting things that are echoed in the places where I read about the thing that I watch on television, about how Raw ratings are dropping, how they're sick of seeing the same old shit all the time, and blah, blah, blah. And Shane went on like that for a while. Excuse me. And that somehow weirdly snowballed into a match with The Undertaker. Because Shane allegedly was blackmailing Vince for him to run Raw with some magical mystery item, or the McMahon McGuffin, that we never heard about or seen or even knew what it was. But it spooked the hell out of Mr. McMahon, though. Oh, excuse me. It spooked the hell out of Mr. McMahon. So, in order for Shane to have his dream of running Raw, is you have to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania in Hell in a Cell. It was an interesting build, that's all I will say. And then WrestleMania happened. Shane McMahon did the obvious thing and dove off of Hell in a Cell, landed, I think, on top of the German announce table, which had an airbag in it, so he didn't die, and Undertaker beat him. The night after Raw, where special things happened, and one of the special things that I remember off the top of my head was people learned how to spell the word soft incorrectly. But I love Enzo Amore and Big Cass, so that's just me. However, point being is Shane McMahon came out, thanked the fans, blah 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 blah, thanked them for getting loud for him, blah 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 blah. And as he was walking away, no chance in hell Vince came out. Vince blah 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 blah. Well, if you want to run so badly, run it. So he lost, but then technically got the thing he wanted in a limited capacity because he damn near killed himself, quote unquote, by diving off a very high thing and landing on something with an airbag. So, Shane runs Raw, people go nuts, and he's running Raw again and again and again and again. At some point, the queen of all of our hearts, Stephanie McMahon, she came back without Triple H because he's better off doing the things that he does, and he's amazing at those things. He should have never been wrestling Roman at WrestleMania in the first place, but that is another discussion. And then Stephanie came back. You don't run Raw anymore, and for a while, Shane and Stephanie were going back and forth and back and forth. Vince came back out, was sitting up here and asking Stephanie why was she pandering to the fans, because she was really, she was really playing it up and, doing a wonderful job, because to separate Stephanie McMahon, the person, from the character she plays, is that Stephanie McMahon as the person is an amazing businesswoman, but Stephanie McMahon, the character, is fucking amazing. So, she did everything she could to play up to the fans or whatever, and play that little role for a while where Shane and Stephanie were getting along. Vince comes back out, sits up here and asks why there's no bloodshed. You should be cutting each other's throats, stabbing each other in the back, whatever. This is what I want to see, because the person who does these things or shows me what they got, show me what you got, is that person will run Raw. But then that turned into you will run SmackDown Live, which was probably the best thing they could have done, because they were spending all of their time arguing about who was going to run the alleged B show. The Thunder, if you will, rest in peace Dusty Rhodes, is that they did a wonderful job of, I don't believe I'm going to say this, is putting over SmackDown Live to make it a thing that people would want to argue about running. This all came to a point where they then announced the best thing they could have done for everything that's happening with NXT and all the talent that they have that don't get used enough is a brand extension. Separate the brands, have a draft, blah, 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 blah. They argue back and forth about who was going to run SmackDown Live. Shane won the opportunity to run SmackDown Live, and Stephanie would run Raw. Vince told them to then choose a general manager that would run their day-to-day business, blah, 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 blah. The next week on Raw, Stephanie chose Mick Foley. Mick Foley went out there, got his cheek popping as he does. Shane McMahon chose Daniel Bryan, and they chanted yes for like 3 or 4 minutes straight before the man said any damn thing, so yay. Then the draft happened. People were drafted. Heath Slater was funnily undrafted, which they're going to do a thing with, I guess. And that's where we are right now. Here's the thing, though. The thing that has been a question for me that has just recently been answered is the enigma that is Roman Reigns. Because the WWE really wanted you to love that dude. And not a lot of people were vocally buying it, but the man was selling merch out the ass, and you should see the things that people say about him and Dean Ambrose. And recently I seen a sign about Finn Balor that made me rethink life. But he has a demographic, just like John Cena, is that I honestly think they boo Roman Reigns and do what they do to John Cena, ironically, just like they used to chant "You suck" when Kurt Angle used to come out. Ironically, just for the sake thereof, because that's just what everybody else is doing. So, the thing with Roman Reigns is, Roman Reigns pissed in a cup, and it wasn't good. My understanding of the story is that this happened before his match at Money in the Bank. So, what happened was, Seth Rollins beat him clean, which is something I didn't expect, because I expected a screwy finish, even though I expected the ultimate outcome of no matter what happened, was Dean Ambrose was going to win the title. I just didn't expect Roman to lose clean to Seth Rollins. I didn't expect that to happen. Then the next night, they actually announced that Roman Reigns was getting suspended for pissing in a cup. I initially thought it was a work. I initially I initially thought it was a work that we will sit up here and try to get to redeem this man that we have put so hard to the fans to try to make you feel sorry for him that I made a mistake, blah 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 blah. I'm going to rebuild myself and give him a way to do that. But they could have easily, but at the same time, you could say, well, they could have easily taken him off television and just said, well, Roman Reigns is gone for a while. He'll be back. Or whatever. But then Battleground happened. Roman Reigns took another clean pin to Dean Ambrose this time for him to retain the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And then the whole thing about Roman Reigns pissing in the cup and then making up something about it being a work. Now, he pissed in the cup and they pissed at him. So he going to be taking a lot of clean falls for a while. Him actually taking clean falls will come in later in the story that I'm telling. But just know for right now is that I thought Roman Reigns pissing in the cup was something the WWE made up kayfabe so that they could try to make Roman Reigns appeal to the fans in a different way. However, we finally get to the point of this whole thing. The first Monday Night Raw of the new era, including a new logo that I'm not a fan of, and a new theme song that I kind of like. They sat up here, made a whole bunch of announcements, and said that, well, Roman, you suck, and Seth Rollins, you'll be going to SummerSlam to face somebody. They pulled a whole bunch of people aside and said, well, y'all gonna have a couple of four-ways, and then the people who win these four-ways will go into a match later in the main event of Raw. The winner of that first match was the NXT draft pick, that guy right now, Mr. Finn Balor, who I've enjoyed his work in New Japan for wrestling as Mr. Furbo Devitt, but that's another conversation. Then Roman Reigns won the other one. Roman Reigns took another clean pin, this time to Finn Balor, which then, hammer home the whole point of, you in a doghouse really bad, and we don't appreciate that we tried to push you and make you sell this merchandise so that you could be over with the fans. I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a good guy. Insert Botchamania reference here. Roman Reigns is done for the foreseeable future. He gonna go out there. He gonna wrestle. The people his demo gonna love him. Everybody else gonna boo him because that's what you do on a day in the week that ends in a no matter why. But Finn Balor is going to face Seth Rollins for the new WWE Universal Championship. That sounds like a championship you create in a video game. Not saying it ain't nothing wrong with that because we could get into the whole giraffe thing and how when this happened before was when that split happened the first time. Eric Bischoff had the Triple H, the old WCW World Heavyweight Championship. That was a thing that happened because maybe it was part of the plan, because I am trying to sit here and remember the last brand extension and trying to remember like the notable things that happened in that brand extension. All I can remember was Undertaker throwing a chair. I remember the night Cena got drafted to Raw, SmackDown, and back to Raw after Raw was over in the same night. The Royal Rumble that Chris Benoit won when he was on SmackDown and then did something allegedly unprecedented and challenged the champion of Raw, which then led into that moment where him and Eddie Guerrero won heavyweight championships in the same night and they hugged it out in the ring. But now you can find a picture where Eddie Guerrero is either A, hugging some blue figure, or B, hugging nothing, because the internet's weird like that. And that is all I majorly remember about SmackDown and Raw being separated, which has nothing to do with the video games that used to exist and actually used to be good at some point. But again, that's all I majorly remember about all the years that SmackDown and Raw were separated. Those are the select things that I remember, because either the internet keeps it in my lexicon for me to remember, or I just remember them because they happened. Ruthless aggression, but that was way before then. But I just like saying the word ruthless aggression, so sue me. So I don't really know, like, when it comes to Raw, like what they trying to do. Because here's what I do understand before I get into the important part of Raw that happened that, made me pretty happy is I understand why a brand extension had to happen. Because with all these wonderful talents down in NXT waiting for their coming up and people coming in, is that it's got to be a way to make from working from NXT and then getting caught up to one of the main rosters work in a very circular motion. You come in through the training facility or whatever you do, whatever it is you got to do. If you're good enough, you get in, you get on NXT, you work out all your kinks, and when they think you're good enough and you're ready to graduate, boom, you get sent up. But you can't send up all this amazing talent from NXT and have nothing for them to do. You can't have all the talent that was currently on the roster before the brand split and then it'd be like half the time nobody's wrestling on actual television where people are watching it. So you need a brand extension so that you can get ready for these next crop of superstars as the old superstars are slowly being phased out. Because I'm trying to think, like, only people left for real, like from like the for real beginning of like the last era shift is John Cena, Randy Orton, Undertaker. He wrestled once a year, and Kane as Big Show, Mark Henry. He been there forever, and it's like if there's other people I think of on the roster, I can't think of them right now, but that's 6 people. With all this, like I said, with all this wonderful talent that's gonna be coming up from NXT and all this stuff that's gonna happen, is you need room for these guys. All the possible people they gonna be signing from all these different promotions around the world so they can get they shine. Is that it's been, it was that whole Cesaro thing. You can look at that on the internet. You know what I'm saying? But it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a good thing that all this talent get the shine that they deserve. And with 2 separate rosters on 2 separate live shows, and they're going back to splitting pay-per-views and adding more pay-per-views because they have a network where they can show a pay-per-view any freaking day of the week, is you have more time to showcase this amazing talent that go out there and go risk life and limb to entertain us. So you can't be mad at that. Back to the whole Raw thing. An amazing thing happened on Raw, and I'm glad it happened. Sasha Banks is your new women's champion, but she should have won. But no, actually, let me not say that. That's me speaking objectively as a fan of Sasha Banks and have been for years, because I have had the opportunity to watch her growth from when I first noticed her in NXT to her being the women's champion. She is the boss. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of what she does in that ring, and she didn't came up. So, to see her win the women's champion like that on Raw and beat Charlotte, that's amazing. And Charlotte has had an amazing run as champion. She's had an amazing run as champion, including that whole thing with Ric Flair, which, that came off kind of weird. It came off ostensibly weird. Like, that just, honestly, I don't know if that was Charlotte, being a great talent and trying to make her point, or that was a little more real than it should have been. But again, like I said, Charlotte, amazing run as champion. Amazing run as champion. It's Sasha's turn now. That's it? No, actually there is nothing else. It's Sasha's turn now. It's Sasha's turn to be the champion. I'm surprised, but at the same time, I'm not surprised that the title changed hands on Raw. Because from what I understood from the places where I lurk and read about professional wrestling or sports entertainment, you should see how cramped my hands are getting when I do finger quotes, is that Sasha was supposed to win the title at SummerSlam. So, for her to win it on Raw, but I guess her winning it on Raw is supposed to, drill home this importance of the new era and things like that. So I guess that's what that means. And also coming soon to Raw is the Cruiserweight division and the Cruiserweight Classic, yo. They clowning over there. I ain't got a chance to really sit down and watch it. I've watched some select matches. I haven't really got a chance to really sit down and like really watch it because I've been busy doing other stuff. But from what I've seen, clowning, straight clowning. So it's going to be interesting to see with Raw being this 3-hour show and their magical, mystical problem of even with all this talent that they couldn't fill 3 hours of television. Well, 2 hours and 20 minutes plus commercials, if we gonna be technical about it, with filling it full of something captivating. And maybe with this roster split and with being able to focus on a broader selection of talent, that you can feel that time better and get more of these amazing superstars a chance to shine. And that's good. So maybe we'll come back to this in a couple of months and I'll look at Raw because I watched it every week. That we'll see. When it comes to SmackDown, we talked about earlier, Dean Ambrose is your WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And I can quickly say this. I don't see it, but I see it. Is that at first, I didn't understand the match that the streets have been waiting for like 4 years. The match they've been waiting for this long, 2000 what? Because when did Shield come out? Was that 2012, 2013, I think? It's been a while. That match would happen at Battleground, regardless of its final outcome. Is you would think that would be one of the main events at WrestleMania, something big at SummerSlam. It happened on the last possible show where it could, because Battleground, now in hindsight, as I sit here and talk about it, meant a lot more as the last pay-per-view before the brand split. Because they're going to have joint pay-per-views, but I don't know how much crossover that there's going to be between Raw and SmackDown in those instances. And now I think about it, I have a question. I wonder what WWE 2K18 will be Raw versus SmackDown Live. I wonder will they go back, because the reason why, because I'm trying to think, did Raw versus SmackDown stop? Did SmackDown versus Raw stop before Triple H did the Raw and SmackDown Super Show thing, which was their way of slowly doing the thing you already understood and putting the brands back together? I should have researched it before I started the video, but anyway. Is that with Battleground being what it was, to see a match like that, the match that you've been waiting for, like, I don't know if that's like a dream match level, but the streets wanted it and they got it, and it was an amazing outcome, and everybody in that match is going where they're going, including the guy that pissed in the cup and it came out fucked up. So that's what had happened. But SmackDown, the only notable thing that happened on SmackDown was there was a 6-pack challenge with who was in that match? Bray Wyatt, AJ Styles, Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, John Cena, and then they had a battle royal that Apollo Crews won. And then, it got to that little weird spot of the match where everybody's doing finishes on each other, and Dolph Ziggler won. And even I was aghast, because when Finn Balor beat Roman Reigns on Raw, I was kind of like, whoa. Like, I'm like, I know that Mr. Fergal Devitt deserves everything he's getting, but I didn't expect that to happen that soon. He is the longest reigning NXT champion, but I did not expect for him to come over from NXT to Raw and get a push that major that soon. Didn't expect it at all. I honestly thought that because that happened with Finn Balor, that it was going to happen with Apollo Crews, but Dolph Ziggler won. But Dolph Ziggler has always been that guy that worked hard, that the streets love, but no one ever gave him a chance. And who knows if that was backstage politics in real life, or just that his merchandise wasn't selling enough, so we have no reason to push you. But because, again, we are in this new era where the rosters are split and that all this talent has a chance to shine. And that is going to be Dolph Ziggler versus Dean Ambrose for the championship at SummerSlam. So, like I say, this will be an interesting thing to revisit 6 months from now. Once we've become accustomed to and used to that this is how things work, seeing all the talent that's going to come up from NXT, seeing who's come into NXT to know who's going to be next up. Because it's going to be interesting to see who's next up, because you got all this talent, and Bayley was Sasha Banks' partner at Battleground and stuff. But I don't think Bayley coming up this soon. I don't think it's like, even though they should, even though that Bayley has served her purpose and done everything that she could in NXT, they need to find a proper way to bring her up and a proper way to make what Bayley is and what makes that character so special work on Raw or SmackDown. They got to find a way to make that work. And I think that's why she didn't get drafted, because they have to find a way to make that work. They got to find a way to make that work. And until they do and find a proper way, she can just sit in NXT and be her cheery, cute self and do amazing things in a wrestling ring and let it be that way. So we shall see. So that's that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play Rumble Roses. Well, I've been doing that recently anyway for a reason that I will not disclose or discuss, but you can guess what that is. Well, don't. Because if it's that thing you're thinking about, it's not that. It's something else. But we're going to be delving into Rumble Roses pretty soon, because that's something else that I've wanted to do for a while, and I just need to get the rest of the tech together for that. So, the new era. This is going to be an interesting thing for fans of the WWE. On another note, every single person in the world should go watch everything that led up to the final deletion, because that has been some of the most captivating stuff in the realm of pro wrestling in years, and to understand that kind of output came from Matt Hardy is astonishing. Not saying that Matt Hardy couldn't do it, but they gave him the space to shine, and he over there kicking ass. So, good for him. That we on the thing talking about the new era, and the new era over in TNA is Matt Hardy acting a fool and making it captivating television. So there is that. But that's it, that's all. I really want to revisit this in about 6 months from now. That I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off on this, and I'm going to come back to this when we get to the Royal Rumble, because that'll be a nice little measuring point to see from this initial these first episodes of Raw and SmackDown of the new era, and see what we get as we start down the road to WrestleMania. And my fingers hurt from doing air quotes. My fingers hurt. My poor old fingers hurt from air quoting, and I was about to do it again, and it hurts. So what I think I'm going to do here is I am going to revisit this right after the Royal Rumble, because after the Royal Rumble, we're going to have a general look of what WrestleMania will look like after somebody wins the Royal Rumble, and all of the story build up that will happen when we get to that point. Stories will begin and end or whatever, and it'll be interesting to see where the WWE is in the relation to the draft and the brand extension and all that stuff, to see as we start down the road to WrestleMania, to see what the plans are for both of these shows, to see how much they stick to what they got out there in front of people and said, this is what we're going to do with this draft and this brand extension. Man, I should go play Here Comes the Pain. I should just go play PS2 wrestling games, because those were really fucking good. I should do that. we're going to do that. You heard it here. We're going to play a whole bunch of wrestling games now. We're going to play a whole bunch of wrestling games, and I was about to scream one out, but I'm holding that one to the chest. But yeah, more wrestling games. Like, I've only ever reviewed 2 wrestling games in my whole illustrious career, and those were WWF WrestleMania the arcade game and a little look at No Mercy. So we're gonna play some wrestling games, so it should be fun. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get out of here because I gotta get this video to the internet and I have something else that I need to do, and I'm gonna get that done. So hopefully, if I can get that together, you'll see that later today. So the new era of World Wrestling Entertainment, or WWE, because I think that's what they're calling themselves now. I think they're going. They really have legitimately over the years gotten the F out. Gotten the F out of what? I don't know. Well, I know because, yeah, but what have they really gotten the F out of? I know somebody on some wrestling forum or places where they discuss wrestling gets pissed at me because I said that, but I don't care. But yo, for real, like I said, just to say one more time, we gonna revisit this around like after the night after the Royal Rumble. I am going to, I'm going to re-examine this, and we're going to see legitimately where we are, because because it's like, I'm one of those, because I'm going to say this before we get out of here, I'm one of those fans that don't watch SmackDown. Because all SmackDown usually was that Saturday morning syndicated show that used to come on back in the day when you were a kid, where they recap the shows for you, and then had a house show match in there somewhere. One of the dark matches in there that we recorded because we had a camera around. Out of SmackDown Live isn't that anymore. It wasn't that because there have been amazing matches over the years on SmackDown, but the focus has always been on Raw. So to see this focus being on both shows, and with SmackDown was being initially, during all of that stuff, being pushed as an important show that both the McMahon children would want to run, it should be interesting to see how that luster for both shows holds out. And, this is July. So the Royal Rumble happens, January usually? Like December, January, something like that? So by that time, we will know exactly what direction these things have headed in. And I'll be able to make some kind of, informal statement about the current state of the WWE as it is. So, hashtag new era, hashtag triple G.O.D. plays a whole bunch of wrestling games at some point. That's a long ass hashtag, and that's all one hashtag. And hashtag, during that hashtag, is spelled out HASHTAG because I'm funny. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm, of course, the one and the only, the triple G.O.D. And this has been another installment of Triple the Guy Speaks On. And with that, I'll house you guys next time, man. Peace out.